Hello and welcome back to the Winter Show. My name is Paul Davis.
And I'm Joe Longburn. Hello.
Very good to have you here. Lovely day so far. No, this is our first one of today. So
I was going to say, it's not lovely weather outside.
No, it's really not.
I was going to have to get a boat to it. It's ridiculous.
Oh, brilliant. But we did have a wonderful day yesterday.
We did. We had Steve Gosling and
we did Helen.
Yeah, that was it. That was it, because we didn't actually get to speak to the lovely Helen.
Yeah,
I just had to speak to you again.
Yeah, which nobody really wants to do that. So
bless.
But no, a lovely conversation with Steve. We really got into it in the comments in the end as well, which was lovely to see. So
that was really good.
And you can catch up on that video as well if you wanted to.
Just like all the other ones.
Just like all the other ones. That's exactly what I was going to say, Joel. So you can go to our website and visit the Winter section. That was. You can tell it's live.
Oh dear.
Go to cambrianphoto.co.uk. You can click on the guest speakers and see all of the guest speakers that we've had. Any ones that we've already done, you can rewatch them at any time. And any of the ones coming up, you can schedule a reminder. So you're never missing out, basically.
Exactly. And why would you want to miss out?
You wouldn't.
And then you can rewatch again. Great.
Yeah, as many times as you like.
That'll be good. So, and then we've got more later on, which we'll go into more detail at the end. And then also got one more day left.
Yeah. I'm a bit sad to see it go in a way.
Yeah.
But
at least we'll always have Photography Out Loud.
Indeed. Which is
also on later.
Show.
So any of you that watch Photography Out Loud normally at 4:30, there's quite a strong possibility we'll just roll straight through and just switch over quickly.
It's going to roll. And then Out Loud's going to roll into the next one after that.
I hope not. So. That's a long time. We'll need dinner in between that.
Indeed.
Right. Let's get Konsta on and Nikon Neil, which I take it wasn't his birth name.
No, that's a nickname that I've picked up over the years in the company.
That's great.
Well, thanks Konsta and thanks Neil for joining us.
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely to have you here.
It's great to be here, guys.
Yes.
So you coming all the way from Finland, Konsta?
Yes, I'm based in Helsinki, Finland, and I'm born and native in Finland and photographing here mostly as well.
Awesome. That's cool. We've been more international in this show than normal.
Yeah.
We've got Konsta from Finland, and we've had Jonathan Critchley from France.
Coming in from France.
Yeah.
So
I feel like we're going to have to aim to get somebody from like Australia or Peru or something.
And I bet Neil's coming from somewhere exotic as well.
Yeah. Well, he's got snow where he lives. All the way from England.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
Cool. So we will let Konsta do his presentation. Then at the end, after he's finished, we're going to bring Neil on and we'll come on. And then any comments that you guys have for either Konsta about any of his work or how he uses the Nikon system, or if you have any technical questions, Nikon Neil is here to help you with those because he has a wealth of information. And then we'll go from there.
Yeah.
How's that sound? Yeah.
Sounds brilliant.
Excellent. Right. So over to you.
Over to you, Konsta.
Perfect. All right, guys. So yeah, my name is Konsta Punkka. I'm a Finnish wildlife and landscape and outdoor commercial photographer. I'm mostly focused on capturing sceneries and animals in the Arctic and Nordic regions, but I also travel quite a bit around the world, capturing images for different clients and different projects. What my main focus is, I capture different kind of wildlife photos of animals that you can find on pretty much everywhere in the European countries. My own career started with these squirrels. I was in high school still, and after school I spent all the free time I spent with the same squirrel friends and tried to capture like different kind of images of them. And if you think about the squirrels as photography subjects, they can actually, you can find kind of different kind of angles if you get to know the animals better. And at the same time, when I started to take photos of squirrels, the Instagram arrived as well. So I started to post every day photos of squirrels and their daily life, and that way my sort of photography career started. Let's say after a few years of focusing on animals that I could find in Helsinki city, I started to like find different kind of animals, and really wanted to focus on capturing them up close and like to find different kind of photos of them. And if you think about wildlife photography in general, it's often referred to have long lenses and different kind of equipment, but I started with just a 50mm lens, and instead of just getting wide landscape shots, I spend a lot of time with the same animals to get up close and personal with them, and that way get photos that I wanted. So in this photo,
Sorry, Konsta, could you mute your phone?
I'm
please?
trying, yeah.
Yeah, it's just reverbing a little bit.
Yes, I'll actually just shut it off. Perfect.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah. No, just a second. I don't know how to. One moment. There we go. So yeah, this particular photo was one of my first fox photos that I managed to get. It was like one summer night, and I spent 1 week there with the same fox family, and tried to calculate wherever they moved around, and in that way try to get up close and personal with them and try to capture their soul. So I found this one path that leads to the nest of the fox family, and I went there on the early morning and just laid down there and just waited. And what comes with the fox babies, they can be very curious animals, so I didn't need to do much to actually get the shots. I just laid down there and waited for the moment, and finally this one particular fox came up close to me, and I got this photo. Then from this onwards, I started to use all of my time taking photos of the foxes mainly. So that was started to be my actual main focus on subject-wise. So I spent all my summer holidays capturing and following the same fox families and try to calculate where they move, and that way try to always be there when the fox comes to you, and that way they react to me. And this same time I started to get this idea of how I want to get my animal photos, and it's the philosophy behind this is to get up close and not use longer lenses and try to get on the same eye level with the animal, and instead of using much hides and like hiding yourself with camouflage nets or wooden hides, I was completely just laying in the ground, and I wanted the animal to see me, and that way I get photos that where the animal reacts to me. Most of the photos that I took of these animals that come close and they look at me in the camera are taken close to cities. So I often try to use the advantage of animals that already have some sort of relationship with people. So to get close and have the respectful distance, the animals need to have some sort of trust in you. So most of the times it's easier to photograph raccoon dog babies, like in this photo, close to my hometown Helsinki, than in the middle of the wilderness. For example, in this photo, in Finland, there is like these kind of bird feeding stations where the squirrels and little birds go to get some nuts throughout the winter. So it was middle of the summer season, and there was this baby raccoon dog that had stayed on the area for a few days and tried to get those fallen nuts that the bird feeders drop down. And I was there laying down in the ground and managed to catch a few photos of this guy before it ran away. Bird photography for me is something that I don't do much, except owls, eagles, and yeah, that's basically it. For me, it's all about the photography side. So any animals with huge eyes or facial expressions that can give you something in the picture instead of just photographing a rare bird is something that catches my eye. And this one has to be one of my favorite golden eagle photos that I have taken. I was staying in a wooden hut in the Swedish Lapland for a few days, and there was a wide landscape with a few golden eagles going around. And on the third day evening, there was a sunset light coming from my right side, and then one of the eagles decided to land on the top of the other hide's roof, and I managed to get this photo perfectly lit up with the sunset light, and you can see the light blinking from the eye, and that was something I was really happy about. This was taken with 400mm lens. So with like shyer animals, it's always sometimes necessary to use hides and then longer lenses. But most of the times I use 50mm lens and 7200mm lens to capture my animal photos. This one is one of my personal favorite as well. It's taken in Svalbard, I think a year or two ago. There is this well-known Russian mining ghost mining town called Pyramiden, where there's actually more Arctic foxes living there than human beings. So the whole city is is full of different kind of Arctic foxes, and there's one hotel you can stay in. So I stayed here for a few days and followed these different kind of Arctic foxes around and tried to get them to trust me a bit, so I could get up close and on their level to capture their eye contact again and capture the soul in the picture. Also, a lot of my photos have been taken in the Eastern Finland area, where we have quite a few different places to photograph brown bears and wolves. This one is taken a few years ago, and I had a hide in the Russian-Finland border zone. I had a wooden hide positioned towards the setting sun, and it's like a little forest island between two swamp areas. So there's a lot of traffic going on. Different bears walking past the forest, and sometimes wolves passing the forest. So I'd set that my hide so that I could position myself towards the setting sun, and then I was just hoping that some bear would walk past the hide. And I was laying on the floor of the hide with my 14 to 24mm lens, and it was just, if you look at the image, it was just the last possible moment before the sun disappeared behind the forest. So I was super happy when the bear finally came and walked past the hide, and I got the shot I was planning to get. Here's again one of my favorite ones, also again taken in the middle of Helsinki city. There's a big part of how I find my animals that I take photos is social media is a good research place for that. Nowadays, a lot of people, they might share that they saw a fox or saw some animal on the street, so they share it on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. So I often have these different hashtags followed to see any signs of any active animal movement. And this was close to one restaurant close to the sea in Helsinki, and they just posted that there's a seal cub or puppy close to the ice front, and I got the notification about it and just managed to run there before all the media and all the other curious photographers came around, and I had maybe 10-15 minutes to get different photos of it before the curious people gather around. And this one, I'm laying in the same how you say, on the snow with the animal, and I'm here with my 14-24mm lens again. And here the seal was, most of the times it was laying on the ground and a little bit moving around. So I was bursting quite a bit my shutter, and it was finally changing its side, and I managed to get this saying hi expression, and that was something that really stick with me, and I ended up using this photo. I also use quite a lot different remote controlled setups. So often I like to be close to the camera though, so the animal would react to me somehow. So I don't use any motion detected cameras or anything like that, but sometimes close to nests or something like that, that I want to keep the distance to the subject, I use remote controlled cameras. For example, in this case, I found a fox family that lived under a car repair shop in Helsinki, and they had these cool tires close to the nest. So I built up this cool looking composition, left my Nikon on the tripod with the trigger for the remote controlled camera setup, and went myself behind the tires a little bit further away. So I was able to see when the fox cub came from the nest, and I was still the photographer taking the photos. And I really liked the composition on this one and how urban the setup on this photo is. A lot of my animal photos are also happy accidents. So, for example, this one, I was in the northernmost town, Nuorgam in Finland, and I was just coming and driving early morning towards the airport after like a long campaign shoot there. And then while I was driving the roads there, this fox came out of nowhere, and I just managed to pull my car on the side and just stayed there for 10 minutes. And the fox was also, I think people have seen it on the area, so it was not too afraid of me. So I was able to capture this very moody winter scenery of the animal. Also, when I'm taking animal photos, I sometimes use my car as a hide, because the animals are often more afraid of the human shape than the cars, because animals deal with cars every day, so cars can be a good hiding place as well. Right now, my maybe biggest project is I'm taking these animal portraits all around the biggest cities of the world. This has been taken in Central Park in New York City last September, year ago. I was there for a few days after my campaign, and I wanted to observe like the New York City vibe and try to find whatever animals in the city and try to get a photo of them. And after 1.5 days of walking and trying to get photos of pigeons and rats and all kinds of animals, I finally, after walking around the Central Park for many hours, I sat on like a seat and just waited there. And suddenly this raccoon stand up on the fence, and I had my camera bag on my side and 50mm 1.4 lens attached to it. So it was my perfect lens and camera setup to get these quick snapshots in nighttime city shots. So to explain it easier, whenever I'm shooting wildlife in city landscapes or shooting wildlife in nighttime, I always have my 50mm lens attached with the 1.4 50mm 1.4, because that's the best lens to use on low light situations. I have also taken quite a bit photos outside the Nordic countries. Here you can see a photo of Patagonian puma taken in the Patagonian wilderness. I was there for 10-day trip for filming like a film series for Finnish broadcasting company, and we had the chance to go around the Patagonian Torres del Paine National Park with the park rangers and get off the path to follow these different pumas. And on the second last day of the trip, we found this like a nesting bushes, and with the help of the rangers, we were able to go around the nesting site. And after scouting a bit, finally one of the baby pumas looked around inside the bushes, and I was there ready with my camera and 70-200mm lens, and managed to get this shot. And definitely was just a few seconds of time before they ran away and went to do their evening hunting. But it was definitely amazing opportunity to get to see them on the mountains just for 10 minutes before they got bored of me and ran away. On the side of my wildlife work, I also work a lot of in the landscape and adventure and other outdoor commercial work world. Here you can see me on the top of Jungfraujoch station in Switzerland. I was shooting for Finnish ICOS organization for a few years in the European countries. They have these crazy observation stations all around Europe where they measure data for climate change. And here I had a chance to stay on this Jungfraujoch station for 4 days with the scientists, and this was the sunrise. I went up to the research tower and put my drone up and lower it down to the nice angle, and I was able to frame myself with the sunrise mountains and the station. And this was also published in the National Geographic Adventure magazine, so it was a very great successful story to end the trip. Here you can find photo of from the Svalbard. I've been for the last 2-3 years sailing there with a group of my photographic colleagues. I love the different varieties of landscape you can find, and also polar bears are amazing to photograph, but I haven't had luck to find any good subjects yet. But here you can find or see this beautiful glacier lagoon where we are sailing. And again I'm using my Mavic Pro Pro 2 drone to capture this wider landscape. And drones really have a big part of my landscape work as well. Here you can find some my landscape work from France, and it was crazy conditions. And again, as I'm spending almost every day photographing all around the world, you sometimes have maybe 5 days to get the perfect conditions. So sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So this was definitely a lucky day with crazy big waves and some light shining through. Yes. Here's a few more of these landscape photos. My editing style is something that I would say is not very documentary nature photography style. I like to use Lightroom and tweak the style a bit more dramatic and moody, and try to get more I would say storybook vibe to the images, and that way give my subjects more story to tell in the images than just documentary style. And for me, it doesn't always need to be the craziest animals or rarest birds to get the best photos. For example, here I was photographing in the Washington coast, and my friends were hiking to this crazy cliff viewpoint to capture amazing landscape images. And on the way there, I found this little crow, and I was just obsessed with the black crow in this burnt forest scenery that I end up spending 6 hours with it, and captured the same bird in different landscapes. And it really hit me somehow. So I didn't end up went to the viewpoint, and I just spent the whole day with this one crow. And I'm really happy that I did so, because these images turn out well. Here's one more collection of work I did for ICOS in Greenland. I had a crazy chance to get to the northeast Greenland with 10 scientists a few years ago. We were there for 10 days, and I was documenting the life the scientists do there to get all the research data from such a remote place. We started our journey from the North Iceland and flew from there with few stops with this small cargo plane. There is few times a year like a cargo ship that brings all the food there, and sometimes with these planes you can get fresh vegetables and all this kind of stuff for them to eat. But otherwise you are completely I can show you are completely middle of nowhere and just there purely with the nature. One of the coolest things over there was to see how the animals didn't have any natural fear for people. So there has been like different Arctic fox families living in the station area, and they just lived their life without any fear of human beings. So they just came around you, and while you were hiking on the mountains, they might just come and check you out, and that way you can get different photos. So such a amazing place and amazing possibility to get to document these scientists' life and how the remote world works over there. Perfect. Then we can go and start with our recent project I did with Nikon Z7 II. We were staying in the eastern Finland, where I photograph a lot the wolves and bears, and I had a chance to get the Nikon Z7 II on my hands and try to capture some images of these young wolf cubs and the bears over there. And this was on the first day of the trip. We were sitting on the height close to the Russian border, and what comes to photographing wolves and bears, you have to use wooden hides to get the photos, as you need to protect yourself and the animals all around there. So there's not really a way to use 50mm or 7200mm lens on these Sai animals. So all these wolf and bear photos I have taken with my 400 2.8 lens. I also tried to use remote controlled camera with Nikon SnapBridge app, but then I didn't calculate correct the paths where the animals move, so those shots didn't turn out so well. But these photos I really like that I managed to capture with the new camera. For me, when I take photos of bears and wolves, I often use a single focus technique with just one focus point, and I often, with the bears, they are not often too fast moving subjects, so I might focus on the eyes of the subject and then reframe the photo how I like. But then sometimes when the animals move fast or are fighting or running around, I also use the continuous focusing system, if that's the correct word for it, to get them sharp. And in these wilderness landscapes, the animals can be hard to focus on in between, like long distances, and there's a lot of trees in front and all these kind of struggles. So I also tried out the new animal eye detecting focus system, and it really worked well, at least with the wolves, with their I think dog type of eyes. So with the bears, we had still bit of me struggle, as the eyes can be quite small with the huge animal, but otherwise the focusing worked great. And this area is it's sort of like no man's land. It's the border area between Finland and Russia, so you cannot not really hunt there. So there's a bigger population of wolves and bears there, and they are very active on the area, and you can photograph them in different kinds of setups on lakeside or in the swamp areas as well. And here you can find one more photo of eagle landing, and here I used as well. I had the continuous focus point, and I followed the eagle around and tried to capture the landing as good as possible. Great. I think I'm pretty good with this setup here. We can go with Neil forward, I think. I don't know if you can exit this presentation.
Oh, we're muted. Sorry, we were muted.
I can't see you at the moment, so I don't know where.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, there's a very unique style to your work, and it shows, and it's really nice. There's that colorization that you do to it that sort of pulls it away from the normal sort of wildlife side of stuff.
It looks natural at the same time. It adds a lot of atmosphere to the shots. Although I've never been to Finland, so I don't know exactly what the light is like and the colours over there. But I think your ability to, well, you describe it as animal portraiture, don't you, rather than wildlife photography a lot of times, which is a very interesting phrase when you think how close you're getting to those animals. So it is a very intimate process, which, because I've watched some of the YouTube videos about you and the way you describe it, and it just it blows my mind to see how close you can get to the animals, like with the birds landing on your fingers and eating the nuts that you've like put inside of your hand. And oh yeah, it's just superb. And the squirrel whispering as well. So no, it's awesome. So how have you found the Mark II, the Z7 Mark II, to use it with? Obviously, you mentioned you used the autofocus. How has the whole system been to use in terms of like handling, and what has it made it easier? Has it been the same as kind of the stuff you've used in the past?
For me, the battery life was very good, and when I was taking photos of bears and wolves, it was not the shutter, and I took many photos. It was not buffering at all, for example, and I don't know the exact word for it, but the focusing was faster with the dual thing. And,
dual XP.
Yeah. And yeah, it really worked for me great. Also, I have been using earlier my Nikon D850, and now when changing towards the new mirrorless system, it really sometimes helps as well to not have the shadow sounds and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely plus it's also lighter gear, so it helps me when I'm not on the heights and when I'm hiking around. So it's definitely perfect camera to have when taking photos of wildlife.
Sure,
no, that's brilliant.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Have you ever used a D5 or D6?
I've been testing it like a few times in the hide, where it's like you put the lenses and stuff on the table, so it's stable there, so you don't need to carry anything. But otherwise, I've been using the T850 of times, and now changing slowly towards the Z7 system.
No, that's brilliant. Going back to the autofocus, Neil, obviously there's been some big improvements on the autofocus side of things, especially when we upgrading onto the Z6 and Z7, which I've been sort of losing my stuff about, haven't I?
Getting a bit giddy, haven't you?
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just amazing. I mean, what are the upgrades to them, and why is everyone getting so excited about it?
Well, I think we had a chance to play with. I've had a pre-production model of the Z7 II, and I've now got my production model of the Z6 II. Hopefully, get my production model of the Z7 II next week. We were playing with them. We've shot some of the how-to videos, which should be available fairly soon. We were down in the New Forest, not as exotic as Finland and bears and wolves. We had some ponies and some dogs to work with. But the big benefits on the dual XP processors is it's the speed with which they can process the data now. So we've also changed the way you access the autofocus systems. So no longer do you have to go into the menu. They're all accessible on the FN2 button, and then control the selectable focus points, whether you want wide area with human sort of detection, or whether you're using animal detection. You just change that now on the scroll wheel. So accessibility to the focus modes has become really, really easy. So that's when you're out in situations like Konsta is there shooting various different fast moving subjects and things like that. Being able to change your focus mode really does help. You've now got eye detect for, it is cats and dogs, but I've had it working on ponies and squirrels as well. I think Konsta had good results with the wolves as well. So we've got those great features on the autofocus system there. It also now, the Z6 II now focuses down to -6 EV if you're using an f2 lens as well. And sort of -6 EV is very, very, very dark. So we've got performance improvements all around with the autofocus system.
Yeah, and I think we refer to, like, you know, they say this EV and stuff and things like that. So I know that 6 EV is extremely dark, because I think they rate moonlight at 4 EV or something. So it's like you can only imagine what 6 EV is going down to.
Definitely.
So
the documentation I saw said quarter moonlight. I think that's going to be a bit the new standard portraiture by quarter moonlight outside, -6 EV, which becomes really helpful because you've got the incredible ISO performance on the cameras as well. You can really push them. Konsta, you were shooting there at what, 3200 ISO on a 45 megapixel camera?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find the images cleaner, Konsta?
Yeah, what I can say from I think so. Yeah. It's I'm being very happy with the images and how they look, and how I can use them to, you know, still edit on Lightroom as well. So super pleased.
Are you finding the image stabilization useful in the Z7 versus the D850 at all? Is that able to help you with your shots, or does that not make much of a difference?
To be honest, I haven't tested on this setup it much yet as the camera was on a stable table on the photos when I was shooting with the longer lens. But I can imagine, like, when photographing foxes or other subjects, definitely.
I can cut in on that if that's guys. We've tried the so my setup Z6, Z7 II, Z6 II now. I've got a 7200 and the 2x teleconverter as well, and so we've done some testing with this Nikon school. Myself and my colleague Rishi, we're photographers. We go out and we shoot all sorts of stuff. Rishi shoots a lot more wildlife than I do. I shoot portraits, landscapes, and a bit of wildlife. The in-body stabilization with the 200mm lens, if we're careful, we're now down to a 40th of a second. So with the reciprocal rule is gone out of the window. Of course, we have to bear in mind the movement factor of how fast our subject's moving. But if I've got a static subject, I can handhold the 200mm at 40th of a second. I've got the 14mm down to around half a second if I'm being really, really careful with it as well. So it does come down to a bit of your technique as well.
Yeah. Sure. So for those landscape photographers that are wanting to potentially sort of
not use a tripod.
Yeah, not carry a tripod, or
our tripod sales have just done this.
Yeah, who we got next on? Manfrotto.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's gone that far yet, guys. I do.
No.
I'm not going to be retiring my tripod anytime soon.
Yeah,
I do a lot of filter-based work, NGRADs, ND filters. My tripod is still going to be firmly attached to the side of my sort of camera bag. So it's good when you need to use it, but I always want to aim at having the sharpest possible pictures. So I'll always try and sort of, tripod-based with a 45 megapixel camera. I think it is still the sort of best practice.
Yeah. And you're going to get better results
for sure.
as well, aren't you? Rather than trying to hold the camera.
Exactly. It's interesting, Konsta, you mentioned battery life. Given that you live in quite a cold climate, you've not seen any kind of massive difference in having to carry more batteries using the Z7 II over the 850?
No, I think what I have experienced, the battery life was like at least the same or even better. I had my the remote controlled camera that I had on the field while I was staying in the height, and it was running there with the snap bridge. I think 5-6 hours. Of course, it was on standby, but still working with the same battery.
Wow,
that's brilliant.
Yeah, because that's one of the biggest issues for a lot of people is coming from DSLR to mirrorless is the fact that the batteries seem to not last as long But if the battery's lasting that long in cold climates, then hopefully that bodes well for us in more temperate climates where it doesn't get quite as cold.
Yeah, with the Z6 II and the Z7 II, we've got the new ENEL15C battery. It's got increased capacity on it as well. And the cameras also have a new power saving mode as well. So they're a lot more energy efficient than the first generation cameras. And one of the great things with the sort of Series 2 cameras is that you can charge them via a USB power pack as well. So I'm actually broadcasting here from a Z5, and that has the same technology in it. That's actually powered into my Mac here, and it's broadcasting and charging at the same time.
Cool. It's good stuff. It's making it even easier, especially for people like yourself, Konsta, that might either want to be out in the field for a long time because they want to make the most of the light available, or they're not going to be near a power source, or at least one that's easy to get to all the time, maybe when you're out further away from the population, I suppose. So having that ability to charge from USB is useful for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I would, in case of using like the remote controlled cameras, it would be, or is very useful to do that as well.
Sure. Quickly, do you have any kind of tips for people who have had to or want to move from DSLR? Obviously, you've moved from Nikon DSLR to Nikon mirrorless, but maybe other people are moving around other systems. Do you have any kind of tips for making the move over to make it feel easier, more comfortable? Obviously, there's a lot of muscle memory and kind of maybe a tweaking process or workflow. Do you have any tips or anything that you struggled with?
Yeah, for me it as well has always been the muscle memory of bigger camera to changing to smaller sized camera has took me a while before I completely changed it. But what I have done now, I have had the Z7 1 and 2 sometimes on my camera back as the second camera, and then slowly changing towards it. So I've been using the 850 and other Z mirrorless cameras on the side, and it definitely is like while I'm hiking and shooting animals that might come by, it's way less weight to carry. So that has been the biggest change for me to actually use the mirrorless more.
Sure. Yeah. So you now have more space in your rucksack for nuts and fruit for the animals.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool.
And I'm guessing we're seeing some of the menu systems from the DSLR carry over into the mirrorless system, aren't we, Neil?
Yeah, it's identical. If you've used a Nikon DSLR, the menu system, the ergonomics on the Z series is identical to existing DSLR. I never thought I'd put my D850 down, ever. I actually sat, when we were NDA'd internally on these cameras coming out a few years ago, I sat in front of the entire marketing team and said, I'm never, ever, ever, ever putting my D850 down. I'm a DSLR person. I'm a film photographer. Before that, I got my hands on the first generation Z7, and my D850 was collecting dust. It was so familiar to use. It was just, yeah, the menu system's the same. There's even more features in them now. We can update them via firmware, increase the performance of the autofocus systems and things like that. So anybody coming from a DSLR will find themselves sort of at home with them as well.
Audio, sorry.
Mic issues?
No, just operator issues. Nothing wrong with the microphones, just isn't donut using it. So in terms of, obviously we've spoken about the camera bodies. What are your thoughts on the Z mount lenses, Konsta?
What I tried on this autumn setup was the wide angle lens on the remote controlled setup, and also the 500 millimeter new lens. Not sure what's the aperture on that, but really liked it. It worked very smoothly and fast, and there was not issue on that. Also, again, the weight is less, so that was nice upgrade from my massive and heavy 400 millimeter. So
Yeah.
really like that. I'm a fan of that.
That's good. Have you used any of your F-mount lenses on the Z series, or have you not needed to?
Not much yet. I'm getting my setup ready for that in like I think in a few weeks. So then I'm probably gonna use it more. But I used back in the days. I have tried earlier generation Z7 with the F-mount lenses, and it also has been working great with the 400 and stuff like that. So it's no problem on that either.
Yeah,
That's reassuring for people who've invested a lot of money in Nikon glass to know that they can still go ahead and use all that excellent quality and not have to fork out for a load of new lenses, I suppose.
Yeah, no, indeed.
Yeah,
What you found?
It's the same still with like all the photos that I took there with of the wolves and bears. They were taken with the older generation 400 millimeter lens, so it very well worked with the new camera body as well.
That's good.
Brilliant.
Neil, have you experienced any differences or any even upgrades to like the older F-mount lenses on the adapter? Obviously, there's been reports that like they can be a bit speedier. Have you found that to be true in kind of real life?
From all the tests, we were lucky at Nikon School because we've got access to every single lens that Nikon has produced on the F-mount range, and all the new. Yes, yeah.
It's like the Nikon museum.
We get to test.
How do you make somebody that works in a camera shop jealous?
Yeah,
it's by saying stuff like that. Flipping out.
We got to test.
If you see any CVs from Paul, just reject them, please.
So what we found is there is no decrease in performance if you're using the FTZ on the mirrorless. If you're used to the performance of your F-mount glass on, say, D850 or 750 or whatever cameras you actually have, moving across with the F-mount and that glass onto the Z series, there's no decrease in performance. One of the big improvements you do get is if you have a non-VR lens, because you now have in-body stabilization in the camera, some of your non-VR lenses now become stabilized lenses. So you can actually bring that benefit as well. I think the big thing that the big thing with the 55mm Z mount, having that wider sort of bayonet mount, the big thing once we started shooting, because we were really happy with our F-mount glass, until we started shooting the S series glass, and then we had to reevaluate what sharpness was. I don't know whether you guys have found this. Edge sharpness on the S series glass, especially like this new 1424 f2.8. The old lens, I used to love my old 1424 G series on the 850. Thought that was sharp. This new S series just blows it out the water on the edge. The edge sharpness is so good. And we've seen that across the entire range of the sort of new Z mount lenses. They are just incredibly sharp. And that's because we've got that wider aperture or wider bayonet mount.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it's impressive to see Nikon's development, even just over the past, so going from Z6, Z7 to Z6, Z7 Mark II, to see the improvement. Because obviously first generation, a lot of people kind of, shan't I? We had quite a lot of people buying into it, and now we're getting way more interest in the Mark II versions as people go, hang on a second, I can, like you have, Konsta, kind of said, do you know what? The 850 is a great camera, but now maybe Z7 II is like the next one. Like, and the fact that you can work full time as like a photographer and know that your gear is like good enough for you to like not have to worry about mirrorless being an issue, like that, all of those benefits that you can take from having a D850 and kind of say, actually, I can get all of that in a lighter, faster package now and not have to kind of think, oh, Maybe I don't know. Like there's that kind of less umming and ahhing, and obviously your images tell us that there's no issue with the quality or the ability of the camera. So and Neil says that he was he said to the marketing team, I'm never using anything other than my D850, and now he's eating his words.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering if he's not wearing a
the
hat.
cameras are great. I just really didn't think I would go mirrorless. One of my colleagues said to me, "You'll go quicker than you think," and I just, it's what I shoot now. I'm not lacking in anything. There's no system, no photograph I can't take. I can do. We do dog photography courses with the Kennel Club. We do sports photography courses. We do birds in flight courses, birds of prey, and all that sort of thing. Once you've understood the phase detect autofocus and the increased sort of which modes to use when, there's not a subject you can't photograph.
Yeah, it's reassuring for those that want to possibly pull the trigger and move on to mirrorless.
You're angling this for a certain customer. I know you are. Some of the questions that you've been asking. So,
well, I just find it interesting in terms of the wildlife side. And obviously sports, because those are arguably the two hardest things to achieve, especially now that this Z series has the image stabilization. Yeah, like you said, Neil, like being able to shoot slower, but also the panning ability to get those slower shutter shots than perhaps you might have been able to manage.
If you wanted to add a bit of motion blur into the background or something like that,
which you might not have been able to achieve in the past so easily. And also for those customers who perhaps can't carry heavier cameras anymore, we've seen a lot of people move to mirrorless, even like Olympus and things like that for wildlife, because it's a more compact unit. But some have been kind of holding off because they wanted to see what Nikon would do mirrorless. Yeah. And now there's a lot of kind of size of relief and that, like I said, that investment in the older F-mount glass, and knowing that if you wanted to, you could move over for a lighter body and still get a lot of the benefits of, especially in cold weather, or you're slogging up a mountain and having that stabilization and you can't use a tripod, for instance, that ability. And I think that's what's most exciting about you guys bringing out the Z series with the image stabilization and the speed of focus. And it's only ever going to get better, that autofocus. You mentioned that it struggled with the bears, but all the other animals it was doing really well on, like the Arctic foxes and stuff like that, and the wolves. And Neil, you said it was good on ponies and squirrels. So if it could only ever get better from here, like wildlife photography is going to be a lot easier, or not necessarily easier, but you'll be able to achieve shots that previously you might not have ever been able to achieve. Does that excite you, Konsta, like the future of autofocus?
Yeah, definitely. It brings the best photos, and what has been now that the best and most technically difficult photos to take, like the basic level, and then what we can achieve from now onwards is interesting, and always that's what's make this photography job interesting, that it's always evolving and going forward.
Yeah, and a great place to be with working so closely with Nikon as well.
Yeah, so, definitely. Yeah. So a few quick comments that we've had through. Steve says, "Afternoon, chaps," and then says, "Fantastic lighting and empathy with the subjects, beautiful pictures." So, yeah, he really likes your images, Konsta, which I think unless you don't have eyes, then you wouldn't. Yeah. Nobody could say your stuff doesn't look great. I think. Well, you mentioned. In a video I watched, like about the golden light, that because Finland being further north, you get longer days, and light lasts longer, and like that must be cool to get to work in an environment with not only great wildlife, but then also like great light, which is every photographer's dream, is having kind of that golden light as often as possible. So it must be exciting to be able to have that kind of combination of light and environment and wildlife.
Yeah, it's perfect for, you know, when shooting wildlife on summer. It's all night around. It's enough light to take photos, and then during the winter times when it's most of the time super dark, then the light time when we have 5 hours to get the photos, the light is always golden. So it's definitely perfect place to take wildlife photos.
Yeah.
You're just going to have, once COVID's over, just going to have an influx of wildlife photographers into Finland.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like we should go on tour a bit with some workshops and go and see Konsta in Finland.
Yeah,
Sounds
like
welcome.
Yeah, it'd be worth it though.
It would be. You're not going to get any complaints from me.
No. You can show us all the best places. And then we've got Nick Can on YouTube. He's saying, I'm a Nikon D5 and D6 cameras for action, sports and wildlife. Use the Z6 and Z7 were utter rubbish for athletes, rugby, football. I'm focusing and tracking. If Nikon produces a mirrorless D6, I will switch. Neil.
While I can't talk about products that
I tried.
Yeah, the Z7 II, the Z6 II are not the D5 and D6 are at the pinnacle of DSLR technology. They've got super fast autofocus systems. The Z6 II, the Z7 II are not designed to replace the D5 and the D6. We release cameras all the time. I would say it's a watch this space. What I would say is, as I said earlier, the phase detect autofocus system, once you've understood it and which modes to use when, there's not a picture. I would happily pick the camera up tomorrow and go and shoot. Well, we've got lots of red kites up here in Yorkshire. Happily take the camera out and go and photograph those. I've done sports with it as well. There's no reason why I wouldn't take it out, but if I knew I really wanted the best performance for fast moving subjects and things like that, I am going to go and pick up a D5 or D6 if I've got access to one.
Sure.
Yeah. No, it's very true, and it sits at the top of the tree, for a reason.
Yeah,
it's certainly there. And just coming down to general, what we prefer to use as well. So
it goes along with the muscle memory, kind of thing.
So it's not like it's not like D850s aren't selling. They're still selling like hotcakes.
I know. We're trying to get hold of them.
Yeah. So I mean, it's personal preference there,
sure.
And I just think the mirrorless system is adding another way of customizing the way that you want to shoot. Definitely. So just resonating on what Neil said is that technically Z6 Z7 has the technology to do those sports and wildlife shots. So you could use it for that, but once again, you still might prefer to use a D5, a D6. Also,
a D5 and a D6 are much bigger. They've got a different build quality to them. They've got a different feature set, primarily designed for that sports or wildlife photographer in certain environments. Yeah. But I think going forwards, looking at the way other brands have developed cameras, I'm sure Nikon will produce exceptionally good mirrorless cameras throughout the range of usability.
I was just picking up that point on build quality there. So the Z7 II, the Z6 II, that's sort of the weather sealing on that is equivalent to, say, the sort of D850 range as well. That said, my first generation Z7, and I don't recommend people do this, I have a technique where I like my tripod is generally very low to the ground, and I'm very close to my subject. So I love shooting sort of super wide with 14mm lens like the 1430 f4. I did get my first generation Z7 covered by a wave, and it still works. I'm not recommending that, or not even in saying that they're waterproof, but it does still work. So the weather sealing is tremendous on it, certainly for water. I've had them out in Iceland as well. They work really well. We were out in some snowstorms and things like that because the weather in Iceland is interesting for anybody that's been there. So the weather sealing on the cameras is great. Again, there's not any weather I wouldn't take them out in.
That's reassuring, isn't it?
And I'm sure Konsta appreciates having his 850 weather sealed as well.
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's not the first time I have left my Nikon cameras on the remote setup for a few days and don't even have any cover on it, and snow and rain and all that stuff, and it still works. So it definitely is important and happy about it.
Konsta's like the ultimate quality control.
Yeah. I'm going to leave that there for a couple of days. And
if it survives Konsta for a week, then it'll survive any other conditions thrown at it. So just want to say a massive thank you to you guys for jumping on with us, and really inspirational, and kind of like being able to see the shots that you can get Konsta, and knowing that you've done those on both DSLR and mirrorless. It kind of is reassuring to know that if you did want to do the jump over to mirrorless, then it's definitely capable of stuff that perhaps people wouldn't have ordinarily expected. So I think that's reassuring for those that are considering doing that.
Yeah.
And we'll have to try and figure out if we can either do a workshop with you over in Finland, or you come over to the UK and we can show you around some of our wildlife. Yeah. And then we can bring Neil along for the technical support.
More than happy to do that, guys.
Perfect.
Definitely up for that.
Sounds like a plan. Right, I'll drop you guys off the screen and we'll catch up with you in a second.
Thank you
Cheers.
so much.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Wow, that was really good.
You know what? That's like my ideal sort of live.
Okay, I thought you meant job, as in you wanted to do what Neil does, and have all of those Nikon lenses available.
Yeah. But no, we had lovely inspirational photos. Uniqueness to them as well is just, mind blowing. And then a lovely little technical section at the end. So a lovely mix between those two. And I would like to sign my transfer paper, John.
Nope.
Ship me off to.
I'm going to be like one of those managers at like a Premier League side. I'd be like,
someone's got to pay.
Yeah, like 100 million transfer fee.
Oh.
How's that sound? So no, that was really good, and hopefully we can do more of these in the future as well. With Konsta and Neil, really knowledgeable on both the technical side and the wildlife side. So tonight, given it is the penultimate day of our photography show, sad times, but it's going to be a great one tonight because we've got Paul Sanders in conversation with Jonathan Critchley, which both two fantastic,
a great conversation,
and
it's all going to be directed by the viewers, so the more that you sort of
type your questions in,
the more you do your comments, the more we can interact, and it's a completely unique experience. We don't normally see Jonathan doing much. Paul Sanders is helping us out as well by jumping on and adding a level of probably interviewism that we could never achieve. So big thank you to him as well. So and you can find out all the information for not only that talk, but all the other talks that we've done through the winter show by going to our website, which is cambrianphoto.co.uk, clicking on the guest speakers, and you'll see a whole list of everything that we've done or everything that is coming up as well. So please go and check that out.
And then also, not to forget that in 19 minutes, we'll be on Photography Out Loud, our weekly show, video podcast type thing, talking about like the show, and also about presents or gift ideas for under £100 that you might want to buy your significant other, or for you, and tell your significant other that you want them to buy that for them.
I bought this for myself, so
thank you. So definitely tune in, and we'll see you then.
Bye bye for now.
Cheers.